Welcome to the Motivation Without the Hype podcast with your host, Gez Perez. He's an author, high-performance coach, and motivational speaker. This show brings you inspiring messages and interviews to unleash your greatness in life and in business. So let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Motivation Without the Hype podcast show. My name is Gez Perez, a former procrastinator into an action taker. We bring you inspirational messages and interviews, including motivational insights, tips, principles, and proven strategies that you can take action on without the hype in unleashing your greatness in life and in business. So we appreciate you plugging in and spending time with us. And we have a very special guest, and I'm super grateful to have him on our show. His name is Steve. Steve's started a supplement industry for 6 years ago and started to grow the team around year 4 of the business. He's rebranded to Enhance Supplements. The brand caught on more effectively with the whole team behind it and the marketability of the name. He now has stores with a 6 pending, which is a phenomenal result to have. He's also ran a meal prep company, which he sold a year ago, to move into the merchant media business. Since then, a strategic move was established to understand the importance of digital marketing and why it is critical in today's business. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm super happy to welcome Steve. G'day, Steve. How's it going?
Great, Gez. Thanks very much for having me.
Not a problem. Look, Steve, I know on a personal level, you're an amazing human being and what you provide in value in terms of your businesses, the digital business, with your lovely wife as well. And look, some of the listeners may not know you yet. What do you do? And tell us about yourself.
So yeah, I do a few different bits and pieces. Initially, I started off in the supplement industry, as you mentioned, and it was we initially started inside a partnership. And after about a year of trading, we decided the business wasn't actually turning over enough profit to have 2 people within the partnership, and so I was able to buy my partner out at that stage. We were able to remain great friends, which was very good because I know a lot of partnerships don't end so nicely. After that year's stage, we ended up rebranding because initially I had come under someone else's sort of name, and I didn't think that really fit me as a person anymore, and I could kind of see some hiccups that were happening in other stores that were using the same name, and so I kind of wanted to move away from that and distance myself from it and just move into a space that catered more for nutritional needs, not just supplement needs, and we wanted to pick up more of the Gen Pop clientele that we could help with weight loss as opposed to just muscle building, which is what the previous brand was kind of focused on doing. And so after that, we had my business partner now, Mark, come and work for us as a full-timer. And I think in the first interview with him, I said, look, mate, I think you're probably a little bit too educated, a little bit too intelligent, a little bit too ambitious to just be a manager.
Yeah.
And so that was from the word go. I said, when I find another opportunity, I'll definitely bring you in on that, just so that you can grow personally and that we can grow together as actual business partners at that stage. And so he worked very hard for me during that year. And as soon as I did find a second location, I moved back inside my business to work on the daily tasks again so he could be at the other site. And that was when Enhanced Supplement was birthed. So I ended up changing my original store's name to fit that one because it's kind of like when you come up with a good idea, like it kind of strikes you. And I knew that this name was going to be well marketed, and it just made, I guess, both stores within alignment to each other. And then essentially some of the other stores kicked off after that, and other people liked the vision that we had, and they wanted to take that on as well. And so I think inside 18 months, there was about 5 stores, I believe, that popped up. So that was quite quick. And
It's amazing.
Yeah, it required a lot of growth from me as an individual and for the team, but I'm really happy for where we are at now.
The stores that you've opened up and the rebranding, with the people that actually jumped on board, how important is the vision that you've set in? And you mentioned about the vision that they caught on. How important was that just to set that tone?
I think that was very important because there are a lot of supplement stores. Like, I know a lot of people within their given industry would say it's saturated, it's a flooded market. And I feel like that is probably true of the supplement store space. And so I think people would need to take on your vision to come in under your name and under your branding. And I think what we did was a little bit different. We were very big on educational marketing. As much as the enhanced supplements name kind of seemed a little bit hardcore, all of the marketing was to, women, middle-aged women, young girls that wanted to move into the space, and we wanted to make them feel comfortable. And that was really what we wanted to do. We wanted educational marketing and to provide a service for more people than the industry had catered for previously.
And I know that the content that you provide, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, the value that you actually give to those audience is very educational. It's well informed, and it's not something that you pull out of the air, right? It's something that and I think that's what separates you from the other supplement stores, is that you're not just there to sell, right? You're just there to inform and give great information and education. And that's the reason why a lot of people actually gravitate to Enhance. I'm also a supplement user from Enhance, which is fantastic. And I know that you're really experienced in the fitness and the supplement industry. What is the most common question that you get? Is it lose more weight, or is it gain more muscle?
It definitely be towards weight loss, 100%. I would say 70 to 80% probably of our customers would be there for some form of weight loss or just looking more athletic. I think the age of the bodybuilder being a common desire has probably died off a little bit. I mean, there still are some of the big boys at the gyms, but it's definitely not what it used to be. So I'd say, 7 to 8 out of 10 people would definitely be there for some form of weight loss.
So if it's weight loss, what are the things that you say to those who are wanting to lose weight? Obviously, it's the process that you got to trust in. However, it's also the mindset. So how do you share your insights? Obviously, you've got great information, and those who are listening right now onto the podcast or watching, check out Enhanced Supplements. They're great what they do. You can check out all this Insta stories, and all the content that they provide in terms of education is fantastic. It's 10 out of 10. And how important is the mindset when it comes to weight loss?
I think mindset is very closely correlated with self-discipline. I think the more small wins that you build up, the stronger your mindset becomes. And I think there's been a massive push behind flexible dieting and if it fits your macros and things like this, which it definitely served a purpose. It allowed people to understand that, yes, you can abide to a calorie limit and a macro limit and fit some of these foods that, were considered unhealthy into your diet. And I think that was great initially for people to understand that there could be a balance. But in the earlier stages with working with people, I actually think self-discipline is probably stronger and more needed as a factor for long-term success than allowing flexibility to start off with. So initially, I just want to find out with them what are the things that they can improve on before I give them anything extra. So is it improving their sleeping? Is it drinking 2.5 liters of water? Is it at least getting 3 meals in a day and not skipping breakfast? I want to see what I can fix first that is already within sort of their normal daily routines. What can we fix first before we add anything else in? And then I want to do we bring in a stage called reactive testing. And what that is we want to see how their body just works with the 3 meals a day, 3 healthy meals of normal food and potentially a snack as well. And after a 1 to 2 week period of sticking to that with no sort of, takeaway meals or alcohol or things of that nature, we want to see how their body responds to that. Because what we've seen a lot of in the industry, and I think where we've been able to offer a little bit more value than others, is we understand this term called metabolic adaptation. And essentially what it means is as we live our lives as adults and we get more busy and we take on more stress, there's things where we tend to skip breakfasts. We tend to replace meals with coffees. We tend to grab lunch or dinner on the go. And essentially, we just want to see what your body responds to when those things are taken out of the situation. And once we see how that person's body responds, we can say, okay, well, if you've dropped 4 kilos in a week, that probably isn't fat loss as much as a lot of people would like to believe. What we want to tell them is, okay, there's probably been a sodium fluctuation. There's probably a reduction in sodium because you're not eating as much takeaway. If you were drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and that has now no longer occurred, well, your digestive system is probably getting a bit of a rest. If you're sleeping better, your body is probably reducing the stress hormones that may have been elevated. And so once we have this reactive testing stage done, we can show people this is essentially the difference when you just eat normally as opposed to eating on the go, having alcohol regularly, all those sorts of things. And then we want to teach them what that means for their body and how that's going to benefit them. Once we have that reactive testing stage done, then we'll start adding some more flexible bits and pieces in there. But we want them to have that small win to say, yes, I was actually able to get over that 2-week mark. I was able to stop eating takeaway just for 2 weeks. I was able to have 0 alcohol. And then we might say, hey, look, a Friday or a Saturday night drink, that's completely fine. We'll teach them about the calories for that. If you want to have 1 or 2 meals off in a week, that's probably enough where you could still get a decent result. But we want to get that small win on the board so they have some confidence and they have a change in mindset to say, I can actually achieve this because I've just done it. And we want to show them the amazing response when we see it as a reward of the benefit they've got of reducing those things or minimizing those things for that 2-week period, because that's usually where the big change comes in. And I think 2 things probably help with mindset. First of all, I think you need to see results. I don't think we can just sell people something without results. And I think results builds mindset and motivation. But we want to teach them why they got that result, because then they feel like they can replicate that for themselves. So I think results and education is kind of what we base, our sales process on and our service offering. But that's why we have a reactive testing stage, because we want to build those 2 things. We want results and education.
That's powerful. Reactive testing is really key. You mentioned about discipline. How do you encourage consistency? Because you get a lot of people, right? They get the snippets, they get the insights of the education part, they get going, and you hit the nail on the coffin about small wins, because every small win actually leads up to those bigger wins. And it encourages your mindset. It gets you in a different state of mind to say, you know what, I've done this. If I can conquer the little things, man, I can conquer the big things. And now they start to see a bigger picture of their goals. It's like, yeah, I'm moving towards it. And it doesn't matter how fast you go, but there's consistency. How do you encourage consistency in the process of discipline?
Well, I do think motivation does play a role in consistency. I think you need to remember why you're doing something, because that why is going to help motivate you to stay consistent. But to me, I'm a little bit... The way that I would use it for myself isn't necessarily the same way that I would suggest others, I guess, stay consistent. For me, it's just about alternatives. It's like, well, if I don't, that's the result. And if I do, that's the result. And I think each day you get the choice of the 2 alternative options, and you've just got to see where each, I guess, option leads. And it's just like, to me, it's just about alternatives. For others, I would say they just need to count the small wins and focus on the small wins. Don't focus on the small losses and the setbacks. One of the things we always teach is, if you love chocolate bars and that's the thing that makes you, on day 4, fail your diet, have a glass of water and jump back on that very day or the very next meal. Don't wait till next Monday, because if we keep waiting for next Monday, there's going to be many days in the year that you're going to miss out. So for me, it's just about alternatives. I think for others, they need to focus on the small wins and not beat themselves up so much about the small losses.
And how do you bounce back from a failure? Obviously, it's because what happens, right? You mentioned it again. Every Monday, it's like, all right, I fail on Wednesday. Oh, it's okay. I'll do a cheat meal and then cheat days, and it leads. Okay, don't worry. I'll start my new diet on Monday.
Yes.
How do you bounce back?
I think 2 things are true. I think people need to understand what season they're in. If they're a mum and they're trying to diet at the same time that they're pregnant, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't the season you're doing this. If you've just taken on a new job and you're in a new relationship and you've just got a mortgage under your belt and there's some stress there, I think having good healthy options on a daily regular basis will actually help you, but I don't think beating yourself up over having 1 too many cheat meals in a week is going to be the best thing for your confidence, because I think that ends up taking you down a sliding slope. So I think choosing the right season to focus on weight loss is an important thing, but having healthy sort of just disciplines that are more balanced and more broad is probably more correct for most of the time. I don't think weight loss should be a yearly thing that you're trying to focus on. I think choosing the season is probably what needs to be focused on.
Absolutely. So choosing absolutely. And can I just ask as well? There may be listeners right now that are actually first timers in where they are thinking of starting their fitness journey or weight loss journey. They're just a bit, either they're afraid or they're a bit timid or they've got a bit of anxiety to actually go to the gym, or haven't actually thought about doing some exercise. They're just so fearful in, can it really work for them? What would be your advice or tips for them to get over that hump and actually give it a try? Because, your health is your wealth, right? You've
Yeah.
only got one body, you only got one life to live. So how do you get started in making the right choices for themselves in terms of healthy eating or healthy lifestyle? What would that be?
So for people that are fearful and just need a bit of
Yeah.
push to get into things, I would say that there is definitely a lot more services available now for people that are of different sizes, of different genders, of different ages, and there's probably enough niche services now that you'll probably find a group of people that fit into exactly the group that you might belong to in terms of your current stage of development. I think on a general basis, like say it's an Anytime Fitness or a Plus Fitness, I think the acceptance of people that don't fit the stereotypical gym junkie, I think people are much more well received now. I don't think there is actually intimidation and I guess a looking down on of people that are at the start of a journey, or that may not be the picture of health. I think that is definitely minimized. Especially if I look back 5 or 6 years ago. But I understand that may not necessarily give them so much confidence, as it's more of a mind game as to whether they feel like they're up to moving into a gym. But I would say 100% try, because I think there's a lot of people in the gym that could offer help to you, and I think that social norms now would probably cause people to support you if anyone was giving you a negative sort of response for going into a gym, if you weren't the picture of being a gym junkie. So I'd say I think the fear is probably a little bit false now. I think social norms would actually support you, but if that's still a little bit too much, you can always start in your home or find a group that fits your niche. I mean, Instagram and Facebook, I think, gives a great picture of the many businesses that are operating, which have really welcoming environments. I know for Penrith, which is where we've got one of our stores located, there's a gym named In Pursuit, and they are such a welcoming environment. We did a taste test for them not too long ago, and just bit of an educational seminar, and they have everyone from 18-year-old girls all the way up to like 55-year-old men, all shapes and sizes, and they really do encourage and push people along, and that's the one that I know of, so that's why I'm sharing that one. But I think there's a lot of those types of groups that would be more than happy to help you with your fitness journeys, and you're going to be surrounded with people on the same sort of mission, which I think gives confidence, just by surrounding yourself with those type of people.
And that's good to hear, that there are a lot of services out there, whether in different niches, that can actually help people transform their lives, through, health and wellness. From your end, you've gone through a journey yourself, whether it's in, the fitness industry, but particularly in the business. How did you pivot? Because, we're living in the industry where everything's just evolving, right? How did you pivot in your business, and where do you see enhanced supplements go from where you are now?
You know what? I love business. I think I'm probably somewhat of a natural entrepreneur. I think there's a difference between business owners and entrepreneurs. I think if you've got a great skill, like you're a hairdresser, and you could work for yourself and have your own hours and have your own clientele and set your own prices and have your own location, I think that's amazing. But I think to say that you have to be an entrepreneur and then also bring out a hair care line and then also franchise your business, and then also offer an online course to teach others. I don't necessarily think that's the best step for other people. And so I think that comes down to being a business owner or an entrepreneur. I think I have entrepreneurial tendencies that are quite natural to me. And so pivoting in a business that needs you to be dynamic and be able to change quickly, I think that comes naturally to me. But I've also got that sort of mindset of alternatives. It's either, well, I do or I don't. And I think being able to respond to the very, I guess, self-aware situation of there's two options here, which way you're going to go. I think that's probably been the reason why I've been able to pivot quickly. But yeah, I think it's a DNA thing. I think a lot of people should be business owners because I think they have the skills, they have the ability to do that. But I think pressuring themselves to go much further beyond may not be the right decision for them. So I think they're just going to be self-aware in themselves as to whether that's the right sort of decision. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, but I think that's powerful. You mentioned about self-awareness, and that's really important to have because if you wear multiple hats, you can actually get burnt out. And this is the reason why you need a team. You need a team. We can't be super talented at 100% capacity. We're going to make sure that we either delegate or find someone that's actually better so we can actually go further.
Exactly.
So you mentioned about you have a DNA of entrepreneurialism, which is fantastic to have. But then the business owner is actually running the operation of the business, right? And so we can't be a manager and then a business owner and then an entrepreneur because an entrepreneur sees from a different lens, right?
Exactly.
They see the vision. They see how can I expand? How do I elevate into this business? How can I strategize? Because you focus your energy on that, right?
Exactly.
As a business owner is all about the business operations, how we can look after the staff. It's all about day in, day out, right? So the daily activities. And you've got the manager who's just managing, the people and just, for example, the store.
Yeah.
But the entrepreneur is a different take because it's a different type of lens that you need to put on.
Yeah.
For you, how did you change and shift? Because obviously you started from all these different hats.
Yeah.
But how were you able to overcome certain challenges as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So sorry. I think there's been so many changes. It's hard to pinpoint one. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's something I could necessarily teach. I don't know if I could teach how to be dynamic and pivot. I think surrounding yourself with people that are further than you can allow you to see further along the line, and that can be extremely helpful. If you should have made a left turn, but you made a right, if someone made that particular decision before, I think mentorship can be extremely helpful. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of mentors out there that probably aren't worth their weight in salt. But I think if you can find a good mentor, that they can really guide you into which ways that you need to pivot. And sometimes they can see problems arise before you can. Don't get me wrong. I think I've been delayed in making some decisions, and sometimes that's like a loss that's hard to see. So I think sometimes I've pivoted, and everyone goes, "Oh, that was an amazing pivot," but it was only because I received the hurt of a loss, and that's why I pivoted. But on the outside, no one would have seen that. And so I think sometimes what looks like a quick pivot can just be a response to a minor loss, and maybe you've acted quite quickly and it could have been worse. But I think sometimes you actually get feedback within businesses. You get a little sting and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't quite right." And so you change. But if you're not displaying your losses on Instagram, it's very hard for other people to see that. So I think business owners and entrepreneurs, they're gonna learn from their mistakes. They're gonna learn from their failures. And I think it comes down to, okay, well, what options do I have so that I don't make that loss the same? So I think that's probably one side of pivoting. And I think vision is probably the other side of pivoting. It's like, okay, well, my daily actions today are going to have some sort of indication of how I'm going to end up tomorrow. So what daily steps do I need to take today that's going to allow that vision to take place? And sometimes that's, for me, that was... What happened when we owned the meal prep business. T was working quite a few hours, and the business was quite profitable. So it didn't make financial sense in all ways just to quickly sell it. But I saw T was working a lot of hours. I thought, in the next 2 to 3 years, we probably want kids. If that comes to that sort of situation, it's going to be extremely hard to run that business in this situation. And then I also saw that the digital landscape was becoming so important for businesses. And because T had already learnt how to run a business that was actually centered all online. We ran from a commercial kitchen, so there was no like direct to consumer sort of sales going on. It was driving traffic to a website, making the sales, and once we learnt that back end of how a website works, how Facebook advertising works, how Instagram targeting works, we were able to say, okay, well, we can do this in many businesses now that we have the formula. And so we tried it on our own business, being the supplement stores. And we saw like an excellent growth from that. And so I was like, you know what? I think a sale now makes sense for the future, but it also makes sense for our other stores. And so I think one of the things when it comes to pivoting is risk management is so important. And so I knew that I was going to have internal benefits from our other stores by getting T alongside doing the marketing in our own business. It still had the B2B clients. She still had her own clients, but I knew there was going to be an internal benefit, and I knew that internal benefit would probably exceed what that Mighty Macros business was able to even give us in profits. Because essentially, as soon as we had 2 stores, the profitability was based on 2 businesses, and we obviously had plans for more. And so I think vision is going to help. Having a risk management sort of calculation is going to help. And then I think also, feeling small losses and responding to them is going to help. So I'd say that's probably the 3 things that's allowed me to pivot.
That's powerful. Guys, those who are listening to this podcast and watching right now, just those key insights of the 3 things about pivoting is really crucial. And with Enhance and how you see it, you mentioned about risk management. How did you mitigate those risks, or even see it in just before it actually became a risk? How would you able to maneuver, and you able to still progress forward?
Yeah, so I think COVID was probably an excellent example of how to pivot in business. As the gyms closed down, we essentially probably received about 50% of the turnover that we normally would. Within our models, we were actually still profitable at that 50%, which is, I think, quite amazing. But that's part of the model that we've built. But being able to pivot inside Enhance for that was, it came from Anthony Robbins. Like, I do look up to a lot of these guys. And Anthony Robbins, I remember him once saying, is like, some people in winter, they try and conserve energy. They hide in their house. They keep warm. They hold on to all their food reserves and see if they can last the winter. And he's like, and other people just go skiing. And it was a funny one, because usually I want something a bit more substantial. I want something, that sounds a bit more eloquent, but that one stuck with me for some reason. I mean, he did follow it up with, the 10 businesses that had actually been birthed in an economic recession and where they were now. I believe it was businesses like Apple and maybe Volkswagen and some other pretty amazing ones. And that always stuck with me. And so I had a conversation with Mark, and I said, look, I think people are actually going to pull back during this time. They're going to be more conservative. And I think this isn't about making profit on a weekly basis, because our stores are still going to be profitable even at 50% turnover. I said, I think we need to really go after market share. As people are being more conservative, we need to pick up market share during this time. And so we doubled down on all of our marketing spend. I'd say we doubled down on our efforts. We added more services. We made sure that we were really making sure that customers left with the absolute best service possible. And that really, really helped during that time. That was also when T started marketing for our businesses as well. And I think year-on-year growth, we saw over 30% growth from each business, which was, I think, it was in the hundreds of thousands. I'll say that. I won't give a direct figure, but yeah, it meant hundreds of thousands of dollars to us, which is really nice to be able to go through that sort of period. I know a lot of people did it harshly, and I actually do feel, very empathetic to that, because this was kind of a situation that it hit people whether they were deserving or not, and it hit people in different ways. I think the way we respond to those sort of measures is always going to have an impact as to how much it impacts us. And I know some people really didn't have a say, which I feel extremely sorry for. But some businesses, did well, and other businesses had to work really hard to get through it. And I think that's probably the sort of situation we found ourselves in. We could have sat back and just had 50% turnover for quite some time, but we decided to go skiing in winter instead, and that really brought in some real benefits, which allowed us to expand during that time, which is I felt pretty amazing.
You've used crisis into opportunities, and that's what people need to look, right? A lot of people face a lot of adversities, challenges, and this is where they need to capitalize, because through this comes with an opportunity. If we're able not only to pivot but change our different lens and change our different perspective, while people are still conserving their food, you could say, people are still out there working the mill to make it work. And there's a lot of success stories out of COVID that actually, whether they double down on the resources, however, the turnover, it transformed to and increased, in percentages in their businesses. Yeah. And it's all about resiliency, being resilient, staying on course, never lose focus on their vision, never lose focus on their purpose and their values. And if you continue to have that, motivation will not be a problem, right? And so I want to just ask you this question, and I say this to all the podcasters out there, is, what is your meaning of motivation without the hype? And how do you use motivation for your personal success?
Yes, I think motivation without the hype means to me being real and having levels of motivation that can translate to actual actions. And so I think I don't want to put anyone under the spotlight or anything, but I know there's a lot of manifest your vision. And to me, that there's just not enough substance there. I think people that break down daily routines, that give insights into business, and they talk about actual statistics and actual business metrics that you need to monitor, and how, how to network, and how to get out of your sort of comfort zone, but what that actually translates to in action. So whether it's literally going down your street and being like, can I mow your lawn because I want to start a landscaping business? I think people really need to have motivation, but let that always lead to action. So motivation without the hype is something that leads to action instead of just talk.
That's amazing. And, motivation is a decision, right? And it comes with action. So, guys, if you haven't gone through the whole entire podcast, I believe that you need to re-listen this podcast again, because there was just so much golden nuggets and wisdom. So thank you so much, Steve. Look, guys, if for more information and how you can get in touch with Steve, look at our show notes. We've got all the provider links that is provided that you can actually reach out to Steve. If you've got anything in terms of whether it's health and wellness, mindset, or just going through this podcast, reach out to him. It's available there on the podcast show notes. So if this episode has been helpful, uplifting, we'd love for you to write a review to inspire more listeners to get plugged in. We will continue to provide high-value content in each of every episode. If you don't mind sharing this podcast show on social media by inviting others, it would mean the world to me. Every time you tag me, we will get the opportunity to share those posts, and together we can make a difference in the lives of others through inspiration episodes just like this. So there you have it. In closing, continue to unleash your greatness and tell yourself that I can, I will, and I must. And I see you on the next episode.